Hey there. Had a couple times chance to watch your video here. Made note that you specifically want to talk about turn 10 and like approach to the S's. Overall, everything looks pretty good, but we'll just take it corner by corner and go through it here real quick. Turn the volume down. I'm about to start what looked like your quickest lap, and it was pretty much traffic free, so we're gonna go with this one. Heading down to turn one, everything for your setup for the braking zone looks pretty good. Go a little deeper. This is about where you're going to start your turn in, which doesn't look too far off. You might have been a tick late on this lap, so don't be afraid to start your turn in a little bit earlier. What that's going to allow you to do is just turn in with slower hands. Just want to get down to that curve as quickly as possible. You can also trail the brake to about right here. So right now it looks like we're all the way off the brake. Plan on using that brake to help you turn. Just remember it's a 1-to-1 ratio. That however fast your hands are moving is how fast you have to come off the brake, or vice versa, off the throttle. Good job keeping it tight. Everything here on the exit looks pretty good. No real issues with the way you're setting up the braking zone. The straighter you can get this line pointed at the tech shed is just what you want to do. Remember, nice, good, hard, firm initial brake, and then a nice slow trail off. And ideally, as you build more and more like intensity around the entire lap, this is probably about where you're going to be still trail braking, probably about right at this point. So we came off the brake just a little bit earlier, but as you build up more speed and more intensity on your driving style and laps, just be prepared to take that brake in a little bit earlier or deeper into the corner. Just remember, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. However fast you're moving the steering wheel, that's how fast you need to come off the brake. If your hands are moving really quickly, got to hop off. If your hands are moving really slowly, you can just ease off and use that brake to help you turn the car into the corner. Everything looks good here on exit. Again, as you build more intensity, as you're carrying more speed, don't be afraid to use this road out here to the right. It's just added track. So don't be afraid to use it if you want. Everything looks good here in 4. Nice and smooth, just build up. Everything looks good through here. Again, as you build more intensity, I just wanted to make a note. As you're womping on the throttle coming through here, everything looks good on your line, but plan on using a little bit of brake as you build more and more speed up in the center. Use a little brake, and not really trying to scrub speed, but we're just trying to help the nose point so that we can get back to the throttle on exit. Everything line-wise looks pretty good. Okay, here we are at the S's. So the way I like to always tell people to approach like the really fast, scary parts of the track is as slowly as possible. And by that, I mean do everything as slow as you can, but still get the car to where it needs to be. Now that goes for the steering wheel, that goes for the gas pedal and brake pedal where needed, but usually fast corners are just steering wheel and gas pedal. So as you want to build more and more speed, just start working on not doing anything fast. Your turn in here looks okay, but as for the throttle goes, you quickly come out of it. Just to help work building up speed, start slowly coming out of it so that you're not hopping off the throttle. You can still start releasing the throttle at the same point, but just work on a slower and slower release off the throttle. What that is going to do when you hop off the throttle, even though you're just using the gas pedal, it's still dumping a ton of weight on the nose. And it's still taking a ton of weight away from the rear of the car. the more we slow that down, well, you're going to slow that transfer down too and smooth that all out. It's going to give you more confidence as a driver to keep working on building and carrying more speed into corners like the S's, turn 12 at like Road Atlanta. So rather than just a quick release on full throttle, just keep slowing it down and carry that throttle a little bit farther and farther. Go back a little bit. And that actually looked pretty good going like line wise. But let's just make sure we're covering all our bases. So the more you work the wheel to the left here, the road's dropping away. And in the very bottom, we have a little bit of a dip. Try to use that dip when the car compresses to really turn that car back to the right and get yourself straight. So when you're at the crest where the car gets light over the hill, the car is pointed perfectly straight. Just kind of make that your goal every single time you come in here. When you hit that crest, the steering wheel, the car needs to be pointed where you want it to go, and the steering wheel needs to be straight. As long as you can do that, you can continue to build speed up to the point where it gets kind of difficult to do that. If you're on fresh tires and everything's good with the car, sorry, you should be able to carry in full throttle, probably all the way to the bottom of the little valley up there where the car compresses, maybe even a little bit further. So there's definitely room on the table here, but it is something you have to work up to and take your time with. A little further. So right here, car's compressing. So this is where we really want to work the wheel. So by this point, we're perfectly straight. And you did a good job of getting the car to where it needed to be. But I just want to make it very clear what you need to do for when you're carrying 140 miles per hour at this point, which is probably doable in your car. But again, to work up to it, to start slowing everything down. Make sure that you're using the grip while you have it to make sure that the car is in this position at this point in time so that you can keep building more speed. And then just be nice and smooth. Shouldn't need a whole lot of breakthrough here. Just hit all your marks time and time again. And again, if you find yourself trying to hustle the car or you're on and off throttle, just try to slow that down, smooth it all out. A good braking point here as you build more and more speed. This is where you're gonna want to continue braking. Remember, really firm initial pressure and a good early bleed off the brakes. Once we go to turn in, we just always have to be in position that we start coming off that brake pedal. We're no longer using the brakes to slow us down. We're using them to help us turn into the corner. Right here to the left, this is usually my focal point. I put my eyes right here on the curb. This is what I want to clip with my left front tire. Doesn't so much help the car turn, it will a little bit, but it's just exactly where I want to be. So I just put my eyes on that every time I come into this corner and I aim for it. I know if I'm a little wide, if I don't feel it, then the last thing I should do is go back to the throttle. So just don't be in a rush here. Because right after here, now the road's going to start dropping away from us. So if you can't unwind the wheel, don't add throttle. If you're still adding more steering, just be patient, let the car roll, and pick up the throttle once you start to unwind the wheel. Good. Everything on the exit there looked pretty fine. Your approach into Oak Tree looks pretty good. Not a whole lot to nitpick about. Just as you build more intensity, make sure that you keep doing what you're doing. Come in tight to the first curb, let the car track out. You'll find that you're going to start carrying more and more brake through this portion of the corner, which is fine. Just keep doing what you're doing with your line. Let the car track out all the way to the left, and just be very patient to the throttle. Get the car pointed straight as early as you can. You can almost be a little bit slower turning in so that the car is going to clip a little bit later in the curb. This is kind of where we want to hit in the curb, and we want the car pretty much straight out from there. Right now, we kind of look like we're going to just be off just a little bit, not much, but just a little bit. And that's just going to, being a little bit slower turning back in, just going to allow you to have the car straighter coming back off. And it's just going to allow you to get the full throttle earlier. Don't try to shortcut your way around and go fast to a mile per hour faster into a corner. If you're going to be a mile per hour slower for the next 4,000 feet, you'll never make it up. Let's go back. And just to give you an ideal scenario, if everything's done right about here is actually where we're going to be starting to heavily roll back into the gas. Probably about right here is where we actually get the full throttle. You can just see the difference that would be made if we just set up that exit all four just going fast down the straightaway. Probably going to jump another 5 miles per hour faster off the corner, and that's going to carry for as far as our eyes can see, just by turning in a little slower, a little bit later, and setting ourselves up for the exit. Not a whole lot of complaints through there. Everything there looked pretty good. Good job. And driving technique wise, that was perfectly fine entering hog pen. As you build more intensity and carry more speed into the corner, just keep doing what you're doing, but try not to ever go back to the throttle. If you're going back to the throttle, that's your mind telling yourself that you could have carried more speed and you're trying to build it back up. Just work on slowly carrying a little bit more in there every time. But the way you're approaching the corner is perfectly fine. Just if I see a little throttle blip in the middle of the left and right entering hog pen, just means that you recognize that you could have carried a little bit more speed. Just try to work up to it where you don't feel like you should add any throttle at all. You should just let the car coast, another brush of the brakes, let it drop down into the bottom, and start applying the throttle once the car compresses at the bottom. And we're coming back around. That's basically what I got for you. So big kind of takeaways here. Just remember, the faster the corner is, and this also goes for every corner, the slower you can ask the car to do something, the more you can ask it to do. So, but like approaching like the S's and like turn 10, just keep your hands and your feet slow, work up to it. You don't initially have to change where you're coming out of the gas, entering the S's, but start slowing your roll from full throttle. And so that way you're naturally going to build up more speed because you're not just unloading and getting engine braking and putting weight where you don't really want it, where it's not going to give you a lot of confidence going into the corner. So just start slowing it down and just keep hitting your marks every time. Like we talked about the crest, that's the most important one. Make sure you have the car straight at that crest and use the grip while you have it available to get the car in that position. Because when you go from 120 to 140, it's going to be very important. So take your time working up to it, and then everything else wise, like where you're adding throttle, all that look good. Just don't change your braking points. Always stay aware that if you're carrying 140 into the S's and getting to the top of the hill and you're rolling all that speed through there, your braking point is not going to be 3 car lengths deeper. it's going to be right where you had it right now. So you're going to have to ramp up the intensity of everything. You have to hit the brake pedal harder and make sure that you're more disciplined in releasing it when you need to turn in. Remember, there's always that 1 ratio of whatever you're doing with the steering wheel that's dictating what you can and can't do with the gas and brake pedal. So if you're adding steering, whatever rate you're adding steering, you're ready to come off the gas or the brake pedal, or add gas and brake if you need to slow the car down. If you're straightening the wheel, you can add both of those things. Just always keep that in mind. Anyways, if you got any questions, feel free to reach out. Hope this helps and have fun next time you are at VIR.